What if all the ice on Earth melted instantly?
It begins with a sound, a deep, cracking thunder that rolls across every continent at once.
People look up, confused. There are no clouds, no lightning. But the ground trembles as if the planet itself has sighed.
Then, in the space of a breath, every glacier, every ice sheet, every frozen lake and mountain cap, every Antarctic and Arctic reserve, every hidden chunk of ancient ice deep beneath the soil, vanishes.
Not gradually. Not drip by drip. But all at once. The world doesn't have time to brace. The first sign is the water. It doesn't rise slowly, like a tide. It surges. Entire coastlines disappear in minutes.
Cities vanish beneath rushing waves, New York, Mumbai, London, Shanghai, Lagos, all swallowed. The sea levels, which were once held back by cold and centuries, have jumped by over 70 meters.
The oceans reclaim the lowlands with an urgency that drowns sirens and silences traffic in a heartbeat. On every continent, rivers swell violently. Drainage systems fail. Dams collapse. The Mississippi, the Amazon, the Ganges, they rage beyond their banks, tearing through everything in their paths. Farmland is lost. Neighborhoods vanish. The boundaries between land and sea blur as the world becomes a new map drawn in panic and saltwater. But the destruction doesn't stop at flooding.
When ice melts, it doesn't just add water.
It releases everything trapped inside.
Bacteria and ancient viruses, frozen for tens of thousands of years, awaken. Some die in the oxygen-rich air.
Others do not.
The sudden shift in temperature and pressure becomes an accidental experiment in biological roulette.
Hospitals flood with the sick and the strange. Scientists scramble to decode DNA that hasn't walked the Earth since mammoths roamed.
At the poles, where the great ice sheets once pressed down with unimaginable weight, the ground begins to rise slowly, but steadily.
It's a phenomenon called isostatic rebound.
Land that was held down by kilometers of ice now lifts like a sponge.
Earthquakes ripple through these regions as the crust adjusts. In Greenland and Antarctica, once frozen mountains crumble, their foundations unstable without the ice to bind them. Avalanches of rock roar into the newborn oceans. The weather changes instantly.
Without the reflective whiteness of the ice, Earth absorbs far more heat.
The poles darken, the seas warm.
The balance of energy across the planet tips violently.
Jet streams shift. Storms become titans. The equator broils. Deserts spread.
Meanwhile, areas once known for cold become eerily temperate.
Alaska feels like Oregon. Siberia becomes farmland, though few are left to farm it. Animals begin a desperate migration.
Polar bears, robbed of their home, try to move south but find only people and concrete.
Penguins flounder in tropical waters, lost and confused.
Species vanish by the thousands.
Coral reefs bleach under the pressure of rising seas and temperatures.
The oceans become darker, emptier. Fish flee to cooler depths, if they can.
Entire food chains collapse. Humanity, always adaptable, tries to find high ground. Literally. Mountaintops become new cities. Wealthier nations retreat to inland strongholds. Skyscrapers in Denver now overlook a vast inland sea. The Himalayas bristle with makeshift towns and refugee camps.
Infrastructure strains under the weight of too many people and too little land.
New borders form. Not from diplomacy, but from altitude. Wars erupt, not over ideology, but elevation.
Access to fresh water becomes the most valuable resource.
Underground aquifers, once distant from politics, are now flashpoints for conflict. Desalination plants rise from the flood, trying to turn the planet's sorrow into something drinkable. But it's not enough. Famine spreads as farmlands drown or dry up. Entire nations disappear beneath the waves, their flags floating briefly before sinking forever. But perhaps the most profound change is psychological. The horizon is closer now.
The stars reflect off an ocean that shouldn't exist. Children grow up never knowing what snow day means.
Ancient stories of ice ages, of frost giants, of winter wonderlands become fantasy. Christmas looks different when palm trees grow where pines once stood. And yet, humans endure.
They build floating cities. They learn to farm seaweed and harvest energy from currents.
They write new myths about the flood, about the day the ice vanished. Survivors teach their children to climb, to adapt, to remember. Not just what was lost, but how quickly it went. Because the world, for all its chaos, still spins. The moon still tugs at the tides, though they crash against unfamiliar shores. Birds still migrate, albeit differently. Trees still stretch toward the sun, though it burns a little hotter now. And in time, life continues. Not as it was. Not even close. But as it must.